evidence to the submitter.
You've described earlier that two individuals who actually performed testing in this case were Julie Cooper and, I'm sorry, did you mention the second individual?
I did. Paula Yates.
Paula Yates.
Well, we're still establishing that at this point.
Frankly, that stain is a little bit different than the others as well, because while consistent with Mr. Simpson, there's obviously another contributor that is not directly related or may not be directly related to this case on the steering wheel. So that one is slightly different from the other mixtures as well in this case.
You are replicating the DNA, and the enzymes that perform that replication are also called polymerase. Your report, if there is sufficient data, you're saying how often you might see this particular...
Demonstrate, and I'll be glad to provide copies of those articles, that there is a scientific basis for us to do what we want to do.
The polymerase and the primers and some other salts or buffers. So...
Then under 352, the likelihood of confusing the jury and leading them to infer that that match has the same power as the match just above it is extraordinary. And in the example I gave, Your Honor, the percentage of the population which would not be excluded by that mixed stain profile on the steering wheel is about 38% of the population. Now that's a far cry just on a gut level from the kind of power that we ordinarily attribute to DNA testing. And that's why Barney says you have to give a statistic, that's why the NRC says you have to give a statistic, and frankly I believe that's why you said it in your decision last month.
With regard to this chart that's been placed on the board, have you had an opportunity to look at this before this?
Top rectangle is simply illustrating that you have some kind of a stain. So there is no environmental force, there is no environmental effect that can work to simply change one type and make it become another. You may lose the type altogether. You may degrade the DNA so much that you can't type it, but you won't just change types from one to another. It doesn't happen. And it's available, and it's had an enormous amount of work done on it. If it wasn't a good test,